Hello and welcome to my easy to understand guide to TV sitcoms and audiences. TV sitcoms appears as a category on several exam boards, GCSE and or A-level papers, but this video might specifically apply to you if you're an EDUCAS GCSE student. TV sitcoms appears on the EDUCAS GCSE Component 2 paper in Section A, and in this video I will talk specifically about the IT Crowd and Friends, but a lot of the points within this video can be applied to any sitcom. TV sitcoms are very entertaining, they have lots and lots of jokes, and the point of them is to make the audience laugh. And lots of people really enjoy that feeling of sitting down to watch a sitcom because it feels very light-hearted and fun and something that they enjoy doing. There are lots of moments in the set episodes of the IT Crowd and Friends that would be entertaining for audiences and would make them laugh. You know, Chandler is constantly cracking jokes in Friends. They're laughing at Ross and how sad he is and his divorce. There's the joke about, you know, people talking about just wanting to get married again, and then Rachel comes into the coffee shop in a wedding dress. So there's quite a few moments that are there to make the audience smile. In the IT Crowd, the funniness of Moss going on Countdown and doing street countdown battles and things like that, you know, that would be really entertaining for an audience. The idea that Roy somehow has, you know, managed to muddle up what's happening with this window cleaning guy and his bike, and then constantly trying to get Alistair to understand that he's not a window cleaner, and it becomes, you know, lots and lots of jokes about these characters. So there's lots of entertainment there for audiences. Some sitcoms also offer audiences escapism. That's this idea that sometimes we watch things like TV programmes or films because we want to escape from our normal, everyday, boring, dull lives. And we want to watch something that takes us to a different place, a better place, you know, something that we could maybe aspire to. Friends certainly offers quite a lot of escapism to audiences. It's set in New York, which is obviously a bit of an American dream for a lot of audiences. A lot of them have jobs that are reasonably low paid. So, you know, Joey's an actor and Phoebe's a masseuse, but somehow they afford these amazingly big apartments in New York, which in reality would be way out of most people's price ranges. So it offers this quite aspirational lifestyle that audiences can enjoy. Obviously a very close group of friends. You know, they hang out together, they have fun together, they drink coffee together. You know, it offers this idea of close friendship and community, which a lot of audiences really love the idea of, and they would like to escape into that world where they dream of having a group of friends as close as that. And obviously there's some elements about love and romance in here as well. You know, the will they, won't they, on again, off again relationship between Ross and Rachel, as well as relationships between other characters that develop in other series. You know, audiences quite enjoy that escapism of you know, this idea of like the perfect love and finding your perfect partner and getting married. Audiences also like to identify with things sometimes. It's nice for us to be able to relate to people or characters or situations. And in the IT Crowd, there's quite a lot that British audiences might relate to. And if you think about, yeah, you know, the target audience for the IT Crowd is probably people in their kind of 20s and 30s. It's got people starting new jobs. It's got people hating having to go to work every day, disliking their bosses, you know, feeling like they're left out by work colleagues, feeling left behind by people who are more successful than you. That is something that a lot of 20 and 30-year-olds, you know, in their first few jobs are going to really identify with. So some of these situations, as bizarre as they are, might well offer audiences some ability to recognise, oh yeah, you know, my life is like that, or I've been through that. So it does feel quite relatable to some audiences. Friends is also identifiable as well. People having relationship breakups, breakdowns, divorces, running out on weddings, trying to find the perfect partner. Lots of people in their 20s, which was the kind of age target for this show. You know, a lot of people spend their 20s thinking about the partner that they want to settle down with, you know, finding someone that they can marry and have children with. And so having storylines about, you know, finding, you know, your husband or wife and relationships and love, I think that would really appeal and be relatable to a lot of audiences in their 20s. People also really like programmes that can offer them a sense of social interaction where you can kind of build relationships with other people in the real world. And I suppose the idea is that with Friends, obviously there wasn't the internet really at the time. It wasn't a particularly big thing anyway. We didn't really have social media when Friends came out the first time round. But it definitely offered what we call water cooler moments. Moments within all of the series where so many people would have watched Friends that the next day at work or the next day at school or the next day at university, you would all talk about what happened in Friends on Friday night. So it offered a lot of opportunities for people to talk to other people because so many people watched it, they could all kind of compare notes. The IT Crowd was obviously made more recently, and that does offer people the opportunity to discuss perhaps online, with other fans and other friends, the show and what they enjoyed about it. Friends was very popular because of the cast. People are generally quite shallow, and a cast full of really quite attractive actors and actresses would have appealed a lot to both male and female audiences. In fact, a lot of the actors became really iconic. They were fashion icons, style icons, they were actors, models, they were in all the magazines, they were probably the most famous people in the media at the time. So the cast and their fan base was really important to the show, and that would have drawn a lot of audiences in. Some of the cast in Friends had been in other programmes before, including some other sitcoms, although definitely not as well known as Friends. So some of them may have been a little recognisable to audiences at the time, and they may well have drawn in some pre-sold audiences from other shows. And likewise, the producers of the show had done some other TV programmes before that had reasonable audiences in America, and that may have drawn in some audiences who were looking for something similar. The fact that it was made by Warner Brothers as the kind of channel distribution company that was involved in all of this, then that would have also perhaps given it an air of respectability and quality in many audiences' eyes. The IT Crowd would appeal to audiences for similar reasons. So Chris O'Dowd, who plays Roy, has been in several other comic roles, and he's actually done quite well in Hollywood more recently. So he's been in several big Hollywood movies too. And so people coming to the IT Crowd later in life may well be drawn in to watch it because they've seen Chris O'Dowd in other things. Richard Ayoade was actually quite well known in the world of kind of comedy, and in particular surreal comedy. He'd been in programmes like The Mighty Boosh before, and Nathan Barley, which are really quite surreal comedy programmes, and that would have brought in an audience who were kind of looking for something particularly surreal, and they really enjoyed Richard Ayoade's kind of quite deadpan delivery of comic lines. The writer and director of the IT Crowd, Graham Linehan, had done some quite famous TV sitcoms that were British, mostly set in Ireland, so things like Black Books and Father Ted, but they'd got a real cult following because they too were really surreal, quite off-the-wall humour, and so he'd built up this kind of cult following of people who were looking for sitcoms that were very different to typical sitcoms. So a lot of audiences might have been drawn into watching the IT Crowd because they knew that Graham Linehan was involved. And when the IT Crowd first started, it also had Chris Morris in it, and Chris Morris was used in some of the marketing materials. He played the original boss, and he would have acted as quite a big draw to the show as well because he too had been involved in a lot of comedy, but also some quite controversial comedy, and that would have brought in quite a few pre-sold fans of his. Some audiences will have watched the IT Crowd because it was on Channel 4. Channel 4 has quite a big reputation for making alternative programmes as part of their kind of remit as a channel. And so a kind of original sitcom produced by them, and that would have been quite popular with audiences. They would have quite liked the idea of watching something made by Channel 4. Whilst Friends does offer quite an aspirational lifestyle to audiences that they perhaps might have looked up to and dreamt of having a life like that, some audiences might not have reacted so well to Friends because of the choice of cast. There are definitely some audiences who felt that the cast was not very diverse. Essentially almost every character in Friends, including most of the minor characters, are white and reasonably affluent characters. And so, people felt, particularly now when modern audiences are looking at it, they feel like the show lacks diversity, particularly because it's set in New York. New York is such a cosmopolitan, diverse place. To just have a kind of cast of straight white characters seems to not necessarily reflect what was going on in New York at the time. So some audiences feel that it's just not particularly diverse enough. Certainly there have been some modern audiences who have, just discovered Friends for the first time in the last few years because it was distributed on Netflix. And that's been quite a good way of targeting younger audiences and new audiences. But some people have actually made complaints because they've seen it for the first time and have actually started to realise that because it was made quite a while ago, some of the jokes don't necessarily fit with our more modern take on life, and they don't necessarily reflect the changes to what we deem as acceptable now in society. So there's quite a few jokes about gay characters within Friends, and there's also a whole load of jokes surrounding Chandler's dad, who plays a kind of drag queen in a club, and so there's kind of some transphobic jokes there as well, and people did not react very well to that when they've kind of come to Friends more later in life. So it's interesting to understand why some audiences might not actually enjoy Friends as much as others. So that was my easy to understand guide to TV sitcoms and audiences. Please make sure you check out my channel. I've got in-depth analysis of the IT Crowd set episode, and I've got other videos as well about TV sitcoms and all of the other set topics for both GCSE and A-level. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and you can also leave a comment down below if there's anything you would like a video on that I don't already have.